Every single night, millions of Americans over 50 wake up 2, 3, sometimes 4 times just to use the bathroom. And I need you to listen closely because what I'm about to tell you isn't just about sleep, it's about your brain. My name is Dr. William Hale, and for over 20 years I've treated urinary issues in older adults, and there is one habit almost nobody talks about that is quietly wrecking both your bladder and your memory. Here's what shocked me early in my career. Patients who got up constantly at night weren't just tired the next day. Over years, their cognitive testing scores started slipping. Why would a bathroom trip have anything to do with memory loss? Stay with me because the answer involves a hormone your brain releases only in darkness, and most people are unknowingly shutting it off. That hormone is called vasopressin, sometimes known as ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. Its entire job is to concentrate your urine at night so your kidneys produce less of it while you sleep. In a healthy young adult, vasopressin surges after dark. But research on aging populations has shown this nighttime surge often weakens significantly after 50. Your kidneys never get the signal to slow down, so your bladder fills up like it's still daytime, even at 2 a.m. That's the real reason you're waking up, not a weak bladder, a weak nighttime signal. And here's the part that should genuinely concern you. Every time deep sleep gets interrupted, your brain loses its window to clear out a protein called beta amyloid, the same protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. I'll explain exactly how in a moment, but first you need to understand why most advice you've heard is making this worse. Most doctors tell patients simply, drink less water at night. It sounds logical. It is dangerously incomplete advice, and I'll tell you why in 60 seconds, because timing matters far more than quantity, and getting this wrong doesn't just cost you sleep, it can quietly raise your dementia risk over time. Studies on sleep fragmentation in older adults have repeatedly shown that deep, slow-wave sleep is when the brain's glymphatic system essentially washes itself, clearing out toxic waste proteins. Interrupt that cycle 3 or 4 times a night, for years, and you are giving your brain far less time to clean house. This is not fear-mongering, this is published neuroscience. And it's exactly why I stopped simply telling patients to cut water and started teaching them water timing instead. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Frank, because his story is the reason I started paying closer attention to this years ago. Frank was 71, sharp as anyone I'd met, ran his own hardware store for decades. He came to me complaining of getting up 4 times a night. Not once did he mention memory, but his wife did. She told me quietly in the hallway that Frank had started forgetting where he parked, forgetting names of regular customers he'd known for 30 years. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because it's more common than you think, and it rarely gets connected to something as simple as nighttime urination. We ran the numbers together. Frank was drinking most of his water after 6 in the evening, out of habit, because that's when he finally sat down and relaxed. He was also a big fan of salty snacks right before bed, chips, pretzels, the usual. 2 things working against him at exactly the wrong hour. Within 3 weeks of changing his pattern, not his total water intake, just the timing, Frank was down to 1 bathroom trip a night. Within 2 months, his wife told me he seemed sharper. Now, I want to be careful here because I am not telling you that fixing nighttime urination reverses cognitive decline. That is not what the research shows, and I won't oversell it to you. What I am telling you is that chronic sleep fragmentation is a documented risk factor for cognitive decline, and reducing it removes one variable that's working against your brain every single night. Here is the method I now give every patient over 50, and I want to walk through each piece slowly, because the details actually matter more than people expect. Front-load your hydration. Roughly 70% of your daily water intake should be consumed before 4 p.m., not after. This keeps your kidneys processing fluid during the day, when vasopressin doesn't need to do the heavy lifting. Then, from late afternoon onward, you taper, not eliminate, just taper. I cannot stress this enough because I've had patients here drink less at night and take it to the extreme, cutting fluids entirely after lunch. That's not the goal, and frankly, that creates its own problems, including concentrated urine that irritates the bladder lining and can actually make urgency worse, not better. The second piece almost nobody knows involves sodium timing, and it's honestly the part that surprises most of my patients. High sodium in the evening pulls water into your bloodstream at exactly the wrong hour, right when your body should be conserving fluid, not processing more of it. A lower sodium dinner can meaningfully reduce nighttime urine production, and I'll be blunt, most restaurant and packaged dinners are working directly against your sleep. Think about what a typical dinner looks like for a lot of folks watching this. Canned soup, deli meat, a frozen dinner, maybe some cheese and crackers before bed. Every single one of those is loaded with sodium, and every gram of that sodium needs water to process it, water your body pulls out of storage overnight, right when you're trying to rest. The third step is deceptively simple. Elevate your legs for 20 minutes in the late afternoon. Fluid that pools in your lower legs during the day gets reabsorbed into your bloodstream once you lie flat at night, which is a major hidden trigger for nighttime urination that almost no one addresses. This is especially true if you sit for long stretches during the day, which, let's be honest, describes most of us after retirement. Gravity pulls fluid down into your ankles and lower legs throughout the day. The moment you lie down flat to sleep, that fluid redistributes back into your bloodstream, and your kidneys treat it as new fluid that needs to be processed immediately. 20 minutes, legs up, above heart level, sometime between 4 and 6 in the evening before dinner. That's it. It sounds too simple to matter, and yet in patients with any lower leg swelling, it is often the single most effective change we make. Now let's talk about something I mentioned earlier, because I promised I'd come back to it, and I always keep that promise. Beta amyloid, the protein linked to Alzheimer's, doesn't just sit in your brain quietly. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid actually flushes through brain tissue and carries this waste protein out through a system researchers now call the glymphatic system. It's essentially your brain's nightly cleaning crew. But here's the catch. This cleaning process is heavily concentrated in the deepest stages of sleep, the stages you enter roughly 90 minutes after falling asleep, and again in cycles throughout the night. Every time you're jolted awake to use the bathroom, you interrupt that cycle, and your brain has to start the process of reaching deep sleep all over again. If this happens 3 or 4 times a night, every night for years, you are dramatically reducing the total time your brain spends in that critical cleaning phase. I want to be honest with you about something serious, because I don't think fear should ever replace clarity. If you are waking up more than twice a night, every single night, that is not just getting older. And I don't say that to alarm you unnecessarily. I say it because frequent nighttime urination can also signal blood sugar issues, sleep apnea, or early kidney changes. And those deserve a real conversation with your physician, not a home remedy alone. Undiagnosed type 2 diabetes, for instance, causes excess glucose in the urine, which pulls extra water along with it, leading to frequent urination both day and night. Sleep apnea, which is dramatically underdiagnosed in adults over 60, can also trigger a hormone response that increases nighttime urine production, completely separate from anything related to your bladder itself. If changing your water and sodium timing doesn't meaningfully help within 3 to 4 weeks, please don't just accept it as normal aging. Bring it up with your doctor. Specifically ask about A1C testing and a sleep apnea screening, because both are common, both are treatable, and both are frequently missed. But for the average person simply dealing with age-related vasopressin decline, the combination of daytime front-loading, evening sodium control, and afternoon leg elevation is often enough to cut nighttime bathroom trips dramatically within 2 to 3 weeks. Patients tell me it's the first time in years they've felt rested. And there's one more piece I want to add because I think it's underrated. Caffeine and alcohol both interfere with vasopressin release directly, which means that evening coffee or that nightcap you've had for 30 years may be actively suppressing the exact hormone you need working properly at night. You don't necessarily need to eliminate either one, but shifting your last cup of coffee to before noon and your last drink to at least 3 hours before bed gives your body a real chance to restore normal hormone signaling by the time you fall asleep. I also want to address something patients ask me constantly, which is whether certain medications make this worse. And the honest answer is yes, absolutely. Diuretics, which many people over 50 take for blood pressure, are literally designed to increase urine output. If you take a diuretic in the evening out of habit or because that's simply when you remember your pills, you may be working directly against everything else you're trying to fix. This is a conversation to have with your prescribing doctor, not something to change on your own, but it's worth asking directly, can this be taken earlier in the day instead? Small scheduling changes like this, discussed with your physician, often make a bigger difference than people expect. If this explained something you've been quietly dealing with for years, I want you to comment "night" below, right now, so I know how many of you this is actually helping, and so I can bring you the next video where I break down the exact sodium threshold that makes the biggest difference, and which common foods are the worst offenders. Subscribe, because I cover the topics your regular doctor simply doesn't have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment, and share this with anyone you know who's mentioned getting up at night, because they may not know the connection to their memory that we just talked about. Your sleep and your brain are worth the time it took to watch this, and I'll see you in the next one.